Inter Miami's defense of the League's Cup title started with a bang with the win over Puebla. We break that down and more on this week's edition of the Inter Miami Weekly Show. Hey, it's good to be back at Chase Stadium alongside the Arsenal great Kieran Gibbs. I'm Joe Malfa, and Kieran, I left for a couple of weeks. I'm back, and it's the same thing. Wins after wins after wins for the club, whether it was in regular season or now starting off Leagues Cup with that 2-0 win over Puebla. It's all good times. There was that little blip on the radar against Cincinnati. I was away. That was for you to dissect with Thomas Rongen on the show. I left that one to you, but it's good times again, and the Leagues Cup campaign got off to a great start this weekend.
Yeah, and it's important that you mention that, actually, because they've bounced back tremendously from that Cincinnati loss. And again, the other night, really strong. I definitely think that, not just the result, but the performance. They've sent a message out to the rest of the teams in the competition that they're serious about defending, their title. So it's a difficult place to come at the moment, Chase Stadium. That's their 5th straight home win. They're just looking really solid. The momentum that they have is real right now, and every player looks confident. Even the new boys that came on. Started the other night, the Santos and the centre half looked really comfortable, and onwards and upwards. I think that it's going to be difficult to stop this momentum that they're on right now.
And we can take a look now at the highlights from that win over Puebla. It was right from the start, getting that goal early on with Matias Rojas, and from there they just continued to control. Another great crowd here at Chase Stadium to take this one in. Again, the memory still fresh of winning that Leagues Cup title last year and off to a great start this year. Yeah,
the start was everything in this game. They just really set the tempo with their attacking play, their relentless pursuit and closing down. They just didn't give Puebla a moment to breathe, and it was a great opening sequence from Miami.
You thought they were going to get that goal 3 minutes in. Offside flag said no, but they didn't have to wait too much longer to actually get that goal, and what a strike it was.
It was wonderful, and I think that Miami recently, a lot of their goals have come from the switch of play and picking up the ball one side of the pitch and penetrating on the other, and we saw that here. I thought Yannick Bright, distribution out wide, and it was a great overlapping run and a great sequence and a brilliant goal.
We saw right out of the gates there the assist on that opening goal from Robert Taylor. We'll talk more about him later. He was outstanding in Leagues Cup last year. It's why partly he signed a new contract that we will talk about in just a bit. But you see the time on the clock there, 15th minute. It was just relentless early on, and then eventually that second goal would come from Luis Suarez.
Yeah, exactly. And then another fabulous ball from Julian Gressel. He's just been so instrumental for this team in recent weeks and throughout the season. And Jordi Alba again pitching in with another assist. I think he knows he's in here. If Julian Gressel can get that ball right with the outside of his foot, and he just gets it perfectly, keeper just gets caught in no man's land, and it's a great pass across the front of the goal, and we know Suarez isn't missing from there. It's a tap in for him and a brilliant team goal.
It was nice to see Suarez get in on the Leagues Cup fun because he wasn't quite part of the Super Friends group last year. It was Busquets and Alba and Messi were here, and they helped raise that Leagues Cup trophy. Suarez not here yet, but he's making his mark in this edition of Leagues Cup. A 2-0 win over Puebla. We'll break down what it all means because of this year's Leagues Cup format. Essentially, it means that they're playing in the round of 32. The way it works, 47 teams from MLS and Liga MX. You had the two teams who had a bye in the round of 32, being the two most recent champions in Columbus and Club America. After that, the other 45 teams split into 15 groups of 3. The top 2 in each get through, and history would show from last year, and just simple math would show if you win a game in regulation, your first one, you're probably going through. The only way now that Inter Miami misses out on the round of 32 is if Puebla beats Tigres in regulation, and then Tigres beats Miami in regulation, and then after all of that, they're last in goal differential. So essentially, Kieran, not going to happen. They're going to get through to the round of 32, so that means you have at least 2 more games to play. Tigres on Sunday and a round of 32 game, and it's just more opportunities, like you mentioned, to keep that momentum going, because momentum's a real thing, and they have it right now.
They do. And I really enjoyed the performance of the midfield three the other night. I thought that they provided so much support, especially in the early stages of the game, for the back four and for the front three. Because Puebla had some dangerous players playing, but I think that the performance of Yannick Bright again, Redondo, Rojas. I really like that balance in the middle of the park. I thought Tata got his tactics spot on again, but I think that they were the anchor for the team the other night, and they definitely bolstered the middle of the park and really allowed for the front three to flourish, and for the back four they made their lives a lot easier the other night.
And the biggest thing I think that came out of that opening match against Puebla, for me at least, or one of the biggest things, if there was any hesitation or fear in fans' minds that Inter Miami would not take this seriously, that they would rest players because of being in first place in the Supporters' Shield race for MLS, would they focus on that and use this almost as a way to take a break for a couple of weeks? That went out the door. What we saw immediately, it was the full-strength lineup. They were going after it, and for good reason, because, A, you want to win any competition you're in. You want to defend the trophy that you won last year. But don't forget, like last year, top 3 teams who finish in this tournament make Champions Cup next year. We know how important that was to Inter Miami this year. Fell short of their Champions Cup goal, but this is a way to get back there. They could get back there through the regular season play, and it seems like they will, being in first place. But just in case, this gives you another method of qualifying for that. So there's a lot on the line, a lot at stake, and we saw last year how it all went. I think if you think back to when this club started in 2020 to where they are now, getting that first trophy was so key last year in Leagues Cup, and it was a very memorable couple of weeks, and it was all captured in La Primera, the documentary put out by the club. Here's a sneak peek at what that will look like.
In that moment, I was in this headspace of just extreme focus.
Sí, era un momento difícil, pero tenemos la oportunidad.
Tata Martino will be the next head coach.
Muchas expectativas de hacer las cosas bien.
Así se hace.
Y nada, estaba con ganas de arrancar.
Leagues Cup es un torneo dificilísimo.
Cuando se habla del lema del club, que es libertad para soñar, es eso, es poder soñar en grande.
Just seeing that gets you excited to watch it all unfold again as the rain continues to fall behind us here at Chase Stadium, typical of the summer months here in South Florida. But Kieran, as you think back to last year and the moments that we will get to relive by watching that documentary, what sticks out to you in your mind from that month-long period, from when Messi scored that goal against Cruz Azul to introduce himself to then lifting the trophy a month later? What sticks out most to you?
I mean, how hard is it to pick a moment? It was just like such a chaotic time for the club, you know, so desperate to get their hands on that first trophy, the arrival of, you know, these world-class players, possibly the greatest player of all time. It was just such a fascinating time for the club. You had the eyes of the world all facing South Florida and Miami, and it was just an incredible time. You had the performance of Drake. I mean, just performance of Drake alone was enough to be, you know, the most dramatic time for him and his career. But yeah, it was. I would probably say, you have to say, with the Messi arrival, it has to trump all of the others, even though there was some incredible other memories. But yeah, I mean, when he came and scored the free kick, it was just that for me. The free kick on his debut was probably. It was one of the great sporting memories that we will have for a long time, I believe.
Absolutely. I was fortunate enough to be up in one of the booths to take that in with Chris Whittingham, who used to occupy this seat. We miss you, Chris, but up there with him and a group of friends and colleagues, and we all kind of looked at each other before that free kick. He's going to score this, isn't he? And of course, sure enough, that's what went on to happen. And even though we kind of knew it was coming, it didn't take any of the shock value and just amazement out of it. But as you mentioned, there's so many different layers to the Leagues Cup triumph. I mean, Drake, you mentioned. It was Benhat Kamaski's coming out party. Don't forget, how many big moments did he have in that tournament, whether it was from the run of play or in penalty shootout, being trusted as a teenager at that time. And
Robert Taylor as well.
Taylor, of course, steps up and was a transformed player. You go through it. Everybody kicked it up a notch, and it was Tata's first real opportunity to get his fingerprints on the team as the coach. So make sure you check it out, La Primera, the documentary put out by the club. And again, in that documentary, as you mentioned, Kieran, you'll see some good things from Robert Taylor. It's what helped lead to his contract that he just signed, a well-deserved extension that will carry him through 2026.
Thoroughly deserved. I played with Robert when I was here, and to see the transformation of him as a player and a person has just been amazing to see. I mentioned it before. I said that with the arrival of all of these players, it probably wouldn't have been as easy as people thought, with them coming in. But he took his opportunity with both hands, and he hasn't looked back. He literally hasn't looked back. I always thought that he was a really clever player, highly technical. But we have seen since the arrival of those players, his end product has been the thing that has completely changed, and he's become one of the most ruthless players in the league in terms of his goals, his assists, his chances created, his efficiency going forward has improved dramatically, and he's gone from kind of being I wouldn't say a bit part player, but a solid player to someone who has to be taken very seriously by the other teams now as one of the top players in the league, and that's why he signed his deal.
And just the way he's scored some of the goals or produced some of the assists. I mean, you go down the highlight reel, there's been times where he's cut in from the outside of the box and put it top bins far post. There's been times, there's one that sticks out for me. It was a left-footed volley that hit the ceiling of the net on the way in, and it was just breathtaking. And there's just been moments that if you look quickly and you see the one on the jersey as he wears number 16, it's almost a moment that you thought Messi would have produced, and instead it's Robert Taylor who produces that moment, and it's that magic that has really rubbed off on everybody. A rising tide lifts all boats, and I don't think any boat has risen more than Robert Taylor's, and it's been great to even see what it's done for him in his national team career. I know he turned down the opportunity to represent Finland in the build-up to Euros, in that playoff that Finland had to go through, because he wanted to stay here, because he's so important to the group. But it's turned him into an indispensable player now for Finland, and just raised and elevated his career in every capacity. So it's well-earned. And as we look forward, next couple of weeks of Leagues Cup, and then 4 months beyond that, because we go right back into the grind. It's going to be all of August, all of September, all of October, and then playoff time, hopefully culminating in an MLS Cup in December. Robert Taylor's a guy who needs to be healthy and be playing an important part the whole way if, again, 4 months from now, we're talking about a team that lifts the trophy. Yeah,
and I think for me, to really know how far he's come is to see how he performs, when the likes of Messi, Suarez and so forth aren't in the team, and he's managed to maintain that level of performance, and you can see that he's grown as a player, and we saw his influence in the Leagues Cup last year. If we're going to have any chance of a big shot at the Championship and any of these, and Leagues Cup again, we're going to need Robert Taylor at his best, just how we've seen him. So I think he may have had a slight dip just because he started red hot when the guys came in, but since then he's still come back up with his level of performance, just in terms of creating those chances and getting in behind players. He's now going on the outside of defenders rather than just the inside. He's mixing his game up. He's still got that variety, and I'm just really happy for his level of performance, and he definitely deserves his new contract.
Absolutely, and not the only move that Chris Henderson has made in the last weekend change. David Martinez comes in, the left-footed center back from Paraguay, played with River Plate, so a lot of familiarity already within the group. We saw him come out here on the field and already mingling with players. He's got familiarity with guys that he's played with in the national team with Paraguay, and of course in Argentina at River Plate. So another piece to the puzzle, a left-footed center back that really helps the group.
Yeah, and I always love a left-sided centre half. They help with the balance of the team so much, and he looks calm and composed on the ball, which is so crucial these days. I enjoyed his performance the other night, and it's great for him to get a clean sheet in his first game.
And just going forward now, it's just more options. We've talked at length about all the options that the group has in the midfield, but the one area that they haven't had too many options, and they've been trying to put in players here and there, is on that back line. Now we're talking about plentiful options in the back line as well, where there really isn't a hole in the group anymore.
No, and the squad looks much healthier again, and especially, you know, with Copa America finishing and all of those competitions now, everyone's back and ready for this final push and the last half of the season, which is going to be, you know, crucial for, you know, it's very difficult to get in this position where you're just at the top of the league. They've been there for a while now, and you know, you don't want to take those moments for granted. They don't come around as often as you think, you know, so it's a big few months for Miami.
And one more of those competitions that you mentioned was actually the All-Star Week this past week, and had Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets participating. You've done it in your past, not as an MLS All-Star, but on the other side when Arsenal was the invited team to play. So you've been a part of All-Star Weeks. What's it like to be a part of that event?
It's great, actually. I mean, we used to love coming to America when we would be on pre-season tour. It's great to see the fans from all over the world, and it's a really cool event. You know, I like the fact that they do the challenge, you know, before. I think that's really cool. I think that they should do that back home a bit more, maybe in Europe. But it's a really cool event, and it was it wasn't the greatest performance from the All-Stars, but you know, they managed to put on a show in the challenge at least.
The challenge, I was just about to say, it wasn't a great performance in the game, but in the challenge, Sergio Busquets, that passing precision challenge. I think we've all always known that he's one of the best passers in the world in the history of this game, and we've seen it on display within the confines of a game in 90 minutes. But to see it in an actual challenge like that, how pinpoint it is, that was special. That was special.
It is, and it's actually a lot harder than it looks as well. Like, because I think that a lot of people probably, because you're not running round as much in those challenges, people think that they can do that quite easily, but it's a very difficult skill, and just goes to show what a great player he is. And also Jordi Alba as well, chipping in with some cool little challenges as well.
So coming up this Sunday on August 3rd, that's the next one, the last match of the group stage in Leagues Cup against Tigres. Again, we don't know the scenario of what needs to happen to make the round of 32, because between now and then Tigres plays Puebla. So, again, we don't really know, but for all intents and purposes, based on last year, based on simple math, with 3 points already in the bag, we know that Inter Miami is going to have this game on Sunday, and then they're very likely to have a round of 32 game after that, and we will have it all for you here for the duration of Leagues Cup on the Inter Miami Weekly Show. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube so you're with us every step of the way.